Welcome to the Tough Decisions Network for Entrepreneurs. I'm Dennae Handford, and my wife, Dennae, and I interview successful people sharing stories behind tough decisions that they've had to make along their journey as an entrepreneur. On the podcast with us today is Antoine Martel. Antoine, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, Antoine, I want you to get us started and talk to us a little bit about you and your background as it relates to entrepreneurship and what you've been doing these last couple of years.
Absolutely. So I graduated college 2 years ago. While I was at university, I decided I didn't want to get a job after graduating. I actually wanted to go into real estate full time. And kind of my last semester at university, I took my dad's $50,000 he had saved up. I flew from LA to Memphis, Tennessee, bought a single family home, renovated it, rented it out, did a cash out refinance, and gave my dad all his money back. And I was like, hey, I can keep doing this after graduation. You just have to pay for my, living expenses for 6 months. Let me try to figure this out. He agreed. And by the end of that year, I had, a portfolio of 10 single family homes in Memphis. And ever since then, that kind of morphed into us helping other families invest in cash flowing rental properties out of state. So now this last year, we're on track this year, 2019, to do over 100 properties, 100 single family homes or duplexes in a couple of different markets, Memphis, Cleveland, Birmingham, St. Louis. And we help people invest in cash flowing real estate out of state, kind of with the same system that I used to help my dad grow his portfolio out of state as well.
I thought you were going to tell me a little bit of a horror story about how you took your dad's last $50,000 and blew it.
I know, right? No, thank God So there's the backstory to the time that I took his money is, 2 years before that, it was like I moved all my classes at university to night, like from 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. So I woke up early at, 7 in the morning and just started hitting the books, whether that be like networking with people out of state or networking with people in LA who were in real estate. So it was 2 years of networking and learning as much as I possibly could because I knew I was going to go and approach my dad. He was interested in real estate and just never had the time because he worked full time. So I was like, okay, I need to be that resource for him. And college was easy for me. I was just like, I'm just going to get the B and get out of here. So didn't invest too much time in it, just got my B and and graduated and just spent the time actually learning and figuring out what I wanted to do after graduating. And it was to help my parents, retire through real estate in some way or fashion. I didn't know how, but it took 2 years for me to figure it out and come up with a plan and then to take action.
So what did your dad think? What was his response when you went to him for that first time and asked him if you could use that $50,000?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I did it in a little bit different of a way, whereas I would keep him actually update. So the first 2 years when I was really researching and studying and learning all this stuff, I was keeping him informed throughout the whole process so that when it actually came time for me to ask him for the money, the big ask, then it wasn't that big of an ask because he already know that I had put in the time and spent the effort going through all of those things. And so the ask was actually pretty simple. It was just, because it was just a natural progression of what I had learned throughout the whole entire process to get to where it actually made sense for him to invest with me. And so it was actually a pretty easy sale at the end of it when I actually went and asked him for money for a specific project.
Well, that's pretty exciting. Well, I know along this process of these last couple of years, you've probably had some tough decisions that you've had to make along the way. And so I want us to dive into the first one that I like to call the sore thumb tough decision. It's one that didn't have that good of an outcome, but you learned a lot of lessons through it. So let's talk about that first one.
Sure. So yeah, one of them that comes to mind right away is, so I started in Memphis and, I was buying all these houses in Memphis. I bought 10 in that first year. And then I was like, I need more houses in order to keep growing this portfolio. And just Memphis, the one neighborhood that I liked the most, just didn't have enough inventory. So I was like, okay, well, I can go to another market. So let me try Cleveland. So I went to Cleveland. I did the same exact thing. So found a team, found a property management company, a realtor, all this kind of stuff. And I did it in, a couple of weeks instead of having to build a team in 6 months, which is what it took in Memphis. I went to Cleveland, built a team in just a couple of weeks. So now my confidence was through the roof. So with that confidence, I was like, I can just keep doing it. Let me just add some more markets and I'll just have way more inventory and be able to do way more of these deals. I'll just have to find the money, but I can find the money, here in LA or in San Francisco and use that money to buy all these properties. So I then went to Cleveland, built a team, everything was good. Then I went to Akron, and then I built a team in Akron, and that's where things started to fall apart. So I was just so confident that I was like, I can find a team, no brainer, and I know exactly what to say and exactly what to do, and everybody's going to listen to me and follow my direction. And that was definitely not the case. I went to Akron and, built a team in a weekend, literally. Found a property manager, a realtor, and then I bought a house in Akron. And it turns out that these people had no idea what they were doing. Their contractor was terrible. Property management company was all over the place. They had no idea what they were doing. So that was kind of a punch to the mouth, but it helped me in the end because it kind of slowed me down and made me think more about what I was actually doing and, taking the right steps to actually set up a good team, and that I can't just go to any market USA and build a team in a weekend. It's just not possible. It takes time to build those relationships. So we bought a house. They were absolutely terrible. We had to actually hire somebody from our team in Cleveland, which is about an hour away, to drive to Akron to finish up the project because the people in Akron had no idea what they were doing.
So what do you do now moving forward when you're getting ready to choose that next market? Is there more of kind of like a seasoning period in that market, or a dating period with the different management companies, or how do you handle that process now?
Yeah, so I do it kind of like a speed dating route, I guess. So what I'll do is I'll find a bunch of property management companies and realtors. I'll cold call all of them, and I'll book a flight in 4 weeks to that market, and I'll just stay there for a week. And then while I'm there that week, I'll just schedule a bunch of different meetings and drive arounds with all of those property management companies or realtors. And then after I come home, then I'll look at it and be like, okay, who did I have the best relationship with, or who was the easiest to talk to? Who did I vibe with the best? Who could I relate to the most, and who had the best system and process in place to do what I actually want to do? So that's kind of the way that I've been expanding my markets now, instead of just, going one weekend to a market, meeting one person and then going forward with them, which is what happened in Akron. So yeah, now it's a very, I kind of take everything and then come home and then look at it on a spreadsheet and say, okay, who should I move forward with and why?
So let's shift here a little bit and talk about another tough decision you've had to make as an entrepreneur that had a really good and positive outcome in some of those lessons.
Yeah. So one that comes to mind is my parents. So I was born in Toronto. I grew up in San Francisco. My parents moved us here when I was 5 years old, me and my brother. We grew up in the Bay Area. My parents bought a house right when we moved here. We rented for a year and then they bought a house. So they bought a house in the Bay Area in 2001. They bought that house, for less than $1 million, which was, a steal in today's dollars. And they owned it all the way up until last year, where I told them last year we did 60 real estate projects. So 60 single family home, renovations. And I kept telling my mom and dad, hey, you guys need to sell the house. And because the values of property since 2000 in the Bay Area have literally tripled in price. So I kept telling my parents, hey, you guys need to sell the property and we can use that cash that you guys are sitting on to, invest in more real estate, and we can buy apartment buildings, and we can do all this stuff with all the cash. If you guys were just to sell the house and just rent and take that cash, and we can use it as jet fuel for the business and to do more deals and stuff like that, because I was raising money for a lot of my projects. So I was like, I'd rather just pay my parents the money if they had the money than, pay these other guys 50% of the profit or, a good interest rate on their money. So I, kept having that conversation with my parents. Of course, it's a very tough decision to make to, sell your home that you've lived in for the last 20 years. But they actually ended up selling it last year in August. And I had no idea what we were going to do with the money. I mean, we could have put it more into single family homes and stuff like that. But that would have just taken a lot of time because the properties that we do are less than $100,000. So what ended up happening is that my parents actually sold their house late last year, and we used that cash, and we actually bought a 20-unit apartment building in Memphis, Tennessee. And with that cash flow now, my parents have actually been able to live rent-free in the San Francisco Bay Area because the cash flow is pretty much from one apartment building is paying for their rent to live in the Bay Area.
Well, now you're speaking my language, Antoine. I'm all in apartments right now.
Oh, yeah? Awesome.
Yeah, we have a company called passiveinvesting.com, and we do multifamily syndication model where we have outside private equity investors, and
there we go.
require minimum 10 million in acquisition costs as well as minimum 100 units. So,
oh wow, awesome.
Over 130 million in the portfolio and a little over 1,330 units. So it's pretty
awesome. Congrats. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's cool. So what did you have to do to convince your parents to invest that kind of money out of state in a large 20 unit property?
Yeah. And again, it was kind of keeping them informed throughout the whole entire thing made that sale very easy because
they trusted you at that point.
Exactly. Yeah. They trusted me. They had saw what I had done and what our team had really, more importantly, what our team had done on the ground. Right. Because, managing 60 renovation projects and, handling the contractor and all the closings and stuff like that, it takes a lot of work. And managing all those construction projects, getting the photos taken on time, renting all the properties out. So we had kind of created this bulletproof team on the ground. And then, when it came time, hey, Dad, here's an apartment building now. And okay, who's going to renovate it? The same guy who renovated the single families. Who's going to manage it? The same team that managed the single families. So he was very comfortable with the team and he had never even met the team before. He actually met them only a couple months ago when we flew out to see the apartment building, but he had never met the team before that. He just, through doing so many projects with these guys that we had on the ground, it kind of made it a no-brainer as long as the numbers made sense for that apartment building. So
share with us some strategies that you like to do when you're facing a tough decision.
So when I'm facing a tough decision, there's a couple of things. So if there's like a pro and con, then I like to kind of write everything down and look at it on paper and kind of take the emotion out of it. So I think that writing stuff down and putting literally writing a pro and cons list down on a piece of paper, as silly as it may sound, it can help you kind of in your head walk through it. And then you can literally count the numbers of pros and the number of cons on the list to make a better informed decision that kind of takes the emotion out of it. I mean, in real estate, there's a lot of people like to get emotional about it, but I think that the less emotional that you are about the transactions that you're doing and the houses that you're doing and just deals and analyzing deals, the better that you're going to do if you can take the emotion out of it. So with my business, I think that writing everything down on a piece of paper and looking at the numbers and having those dictate my decision is something that I do on a daily basis.
We're going to take a quick break here, and when we come back, we're going to be talking to Antoine about a series of quick questions and answers that we call the trifecta. Have you ever thought about investing in real estate but find yourself so busy that you don't have time for it? Do you have FOMO, which is the fear of missing out? At HandfordCapital.com, we help investors with passive real estate investments that project better returns than traditional investment vehicles such as the stock market. If you'd like to find out more about our passive real estate investments, visit HandfordCapital.com. That's HANDFORD capital.com. We will jump on a call with you to discuss your investment goals and to see if our investments are a good fit for you. This advertisement is not to be construed as an offer or recommendation to buy or sell a security. Visit HandfordCapital.com. All right, we are back with Antoine Martel, and we're going to be going through this series of quick questions and answers called the trifecta. And I want you to get us started, Antoine. Talk to us about your favorite technology that you use in business that helps make your life easier every day.
Yeah, that's a good one. So at the beginning of the year, I just upgraded my CRM. I got a new CRM. It's called Zoho. It costs like $30 per user per month, but it is amazing. All of last year when I was managing all those renovation projects, I had to send all these emails by hand. So every time we'd buy a property, I had to email these 5 people this information. Every time I sold the property, I need to email these 10 people this information, right? I now set all of that up in my CRM to all be automated and automatically come from my email with the correct information. So saves me a whole bunch of time and I can do a whole lot more.
That's pretty exciting. I know we use the Zoho platform for different things. They have a whole suite of different tools and resources and stuff. So that's pretty cool. Yeah. What's a favorite quote that you've heard that's helped you as an entrepreneur?
I actually have one right here on my whiteboard. It's build a brand so you don't have to sell. Let them come to you. So I kind of take that methodology in terms of my marketing and, my personal brand. So build a brand around yourself or around your company and don't make it all salesy and stuff like that. Just provide good information, good value up front and let the people come to you.
And what's a favorite book that has helped you make better decisions as an entrepreneur?
I'm going to say one that probably every other person has said. Rich Dad, Poor Dad is probably the book that kind of sparked the way of thinking about investing and assets and liabilities, just something they don't teach you in school.
And what's the next thing for you right now on your vision or dream board?
Next thing right now is doing apartment building syndications. So we did this 20 unit by ourselves, but I'm looking to do bigger buildings and actually bring on people to help invest with us on those larger buildings.
Well, I'd love to have you on my multifamily podcast, because I have another podcast called Multifamily Investor Nation, and we interview people who are closing deals in the apartment space, whether it be, a duplex or all the way up to, 2 or 3 or 400 units.
Yeah.
And with you guys just recently closing that 20 unit, I'd love to have you on the podcast there as well and kind of going into some of the specifics of that. I think that would just help you even more with your syndication space.
Yeah, I'd love to.
Well, how can listeners reach out to you if they want to get some more information about you or contact you to ask you some more further questions after they listen to this episode?
Yeah, sure. So I'm on Instagram a lot. You can find me on Instagram at Martel Antoine, MartelAntoine. My email address, if you want to shoot me an email, is Antoine@MartelTurnkey.com, ANTOINE@MartelTurnkey.com. And then, of course, my website is MartelTurnkey if you want to go look at more about what we do and who we are. There's a bunch of information about our markets up there as well.
Well, Antoine, I want to thank you so much for taking some time out of your schedule to be with us here today and sharing us some of those golden nuggets. Look forward to continuing to follow you as you continue to grow as an entrepreneur and also having you on a future episode as well.
Thanks, Dan. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening to the Tough Decisions Network. Be sure to visit toughdecisions.net to gain access to show notes for this episode and to join our free weekly entrepreneur email, where we will send you news about the latest technology for your business, inspiring quotes, and the latest books for entrepreneurs. That's toughdecisions.net.